Welcome into a brand new episode of the Foul Pole podcast. I'm your host, Coach Tyler from Black Diamond Softball and Fitness. As always, we are presented by the Carolina Patriot Collegiate League. Check us out at cpatriotcl.com to register, and fans, you can stay up to date with all the information. This episode is brought to you by the Nexus Mount. Our turnkey kits provide a secure and hassle-free way to attach multiple devices to any fence, net, or tripod. Crafted from lightweight aluminum with a powder-coated finish, our mounts are built to last. That's not all. Our innovative design features a removable shade cover to protect your devices from direct sunlight during outdoor streaming events, minimizing the risk of overheating. Don't settle for anything less than perfection. Unleash the full potential of your streaming experience with the Nexus Mount. Visit us today at thenexusmount.com and elevate your game. All right, let's get it started for today. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Today is Monday, April 8th, and what a great weekend for softball. I know you guys were checking it out, tuned into it. Hopefully you had a chance to go to one of your local games. I had a chance to go Saturday to watch the Chants play here at Coastal Carolina. Took on Southern Miss. Took in a great game. Man, this game had it all. For me, it was one of those games that you didn't really know what to expect from either team. Both teams are solid. Both teams are kind of in that middle of the pack when it comes to looking for starting pitching, where are we getting our runs from, that kind of stuff. But great weekend all in all. Here locally for softball, some great games. One thing I will mention and that I noticed, and I'm sure it's everywhere, it's not just college ball, it's not just high school ball, travel ball, but man, people in the crowd will say whatever it is that they want to say, thinking that either A, they're thinking no one cares what I say, or B, it's I don't care what people think. I'm just going to say what I want to say. And for me, that makes me feel awkward. I'm not one of these confrontational type people. I'm not going to start an argument, anything like that. I'm not going to say anything that's disrespectful or derogatory or something like that to someone because I care about people's feelings, right? Well, there was a guy sitting behind me, and he was just giving the umpires the business all game. He was giving the opposing team the business all game, and then he was giving the coaches the business all game long. And it just got to a point where I was like, what else is this dude going to say? Well, there's a moment. Coastal's got two runners on. Southern Miss calls time. They're out there talking about it or whatever. And while they're out there having their meeting or whatever, this dude is giving it to him saying, you coach during the week, you play on the weekends. What could you have to say at this point? Blah, blah, blah. What's the timeout for? He was just, being that guy. Well, the very next pitch, once they come out of that timeout, the very next pitch hits the batter. And, as she's kind of shaking off and getting down the line, the crowd is quiet. There's no sound. There's no one cheering. There's no music. There's nothing like that. It's quiet. The old boy behind me decides to yell out, "Is that what your coach told you to do?" Well, man, it's like the record scratched. And the dude is sitting up behind me a couple of rows. And the pitcher that's on the mound just looks like she's looking through me to look at the dude. And I'm just like, oh my God, dude. And like, it doesn't faze him at all. And she stood there and stared for a couple of seconds, like let him know, like, I heard what you said. Even the catcher turned around and was like, what? It's just one of those things that, like, it makes you stop and take a step back and go, as a society, how are we comfortable with berating college athletes, student athletes? Just not even an athlete, or a student, just anybody. How are we so comfortable with saying whatever it is we want to say and then expect not to have any recourse from that? I've never understood how, like, even at high school games, where you're not the only one that hears what you're saying. There are people around you. It makes everyone feel awkward. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe this dude just said this. Like, what makes you want to say this? You're not at home sitting in your recliner watching the game where you can just chirp away. At some point, there's going to be a daddy or a mama that doesn't like you running your mouth about their kid, and then it's going to cause an even bigger scene. Because you never know when somebody's just going to snap and be like, all right, dude, I've heard enough from you all day. This guy, he was giving it to the umpire all game long. If he thought it was a ball and it was a strike, he's letting the umpire know, and it was all game long. He's the only one in the crowd that's doing that. But what happens when you go to these events and you got one or two that are like this, and they're giving them the business, and they're telling them this, they're telling them that, the crowd, there's some animosity that gets going in the crowd between the fan bases or between parents and stuff. Think about it on the travel ball level or the high school level. If we can hear and see it at the collegiate level, for some reason, somehow, some way, it makes it okay or acceptable. And that's just not the case. You know, I thought that there would be some higher level of respect between the teams, or it's just like, hey, man, at this point, okay, these girls have made it to the collegiate level. Let them play. They don't need your words. They don't need your coaching. They don't need you to do or say whatever it is that you want to do. You're a fan, man. Whether your kid's out there playing and she made it, you're embarrassing her. And I don't know who the guy was. I don't know if he was an alum. I don't know if he, has a kid on the team, or if he has a grandkid on the team or something like that, and he's there. But I felt bad for whoever it was that he was related to or friends to or whatever, for him to be there. Because I'm sure at some point that girl that had that daughter or whatever is like, man, can he just shut up? Can he just stop? Because I guarantee you there is somebody that knows who he is and know who his daughter is or his granddaughter or who he's there to see. It's a bad spot. It's embarrassing. I was embarrassed sitting there I had that awkward feeling like, oh my God. It's like when you see somebody getting into trouble or something like that and they did something wrong, or, that's just how I feel. I get that anxiety or whatever. It's just that weird feeling. I'm sure I'm not alone in that, but it's rough. Of course, if you've ever gone to a Coastal Carolina game, it's not a very big stadium. I mean, everybody's sitting kind of close. There's not a whole lot of seats there. So, but that's a conversation me and the wife had. It was like, man, can you believe this dude? And even the wife mentioned to me while we're sitting there, she's like, next time we come, I'm bringing my headphones. She's talking about bringing her AirPods, so she didn't have to listen to that kind of stuff. And that, man, that's rough. It had me thinking, and that's why I wanted to bring it up today as we're sort of recapping the weekend. Just fans, man, shut up. Like cheer on both sides. The umpire doesn't need to hear you. Just watch the game. And if you can't control yourself, in that public venue, sit at home, get your recliner, sit there and watch the game. The cost of tickets isn't that much more, or heck, it's probably even less than what ESPN3 would cost you. And you wouldn't have to go anywhere, or ESPN Plus, whatever you're going to watch it on. Sit there. You can turn the TV up as loud as you want to, like you're at the game, and you can just rib that umpire all game long. But that's just something you can't do publicly. I mean, I guess maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm going against the norm here, where I should do it because it seems like it's commonplace anymore. I mean, think about it at the travel ball level. You sit here and think about just giving the umpires your peace of mind all the time, a piece of your mind all the time. Like, why? They're out there. If it wasn't for the umpires, there would not be a game. And then doing this over coaching, trying to tell the coach what's up. Even at the high school level, man, I've got this one. There's this mom that I see all the time at the high school games that, like, after every pitch, after every play or whatever, she's got something to say of how she would do it better. I don't know what this sense of entitlement is. Her kids have gone from one high school. They pretty much got themselves ran out of that one. Now they're at a different high school, and she's running them out of there too. It's just this awkward feeling, and she sits in the stands by herself. People just don't want to be around her because now at this point they know who that is, and they don't want to be associated. You don't want to get caught being associated with it. And that's kind of how it is. But these type of people are the ones that just don't care. They don't care who they make feel awkward. It just doesn't matter to them. They're for whatever reason. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to get into this weekend's action. Again, let's talk about it. Oklahoma. Let's talk about it with Texas. Great weekend, great series. Don't really know what's going to happen with the rankings, how far Oklahoma drops. Maybe they go to 2. I don't think you can drop them any further. It's not like Texas is one of those teams that's ranked like in the middle of the pack. Texas is a top 5 team. So I think Oklahoma maybe drops back to 1. Do you put a Stanford team at 1? or do you put a Duke team at 1? So I don't think you could go wrong with Stanford 1, Oklahoma 2, Duke 3, or you go Duke 1, Oklahoma, and then Stanford, or maybe you do push Oklahoma back to number 3. I don't know. It is a back-to-back loss. It is, a solid team. So the committee, whoever making these rankings, they'll have to, decide and figure out. I think Oklahoma still, at the end of the season, will be that number 1 overall team going into postseason play. When we're talking about breaking down regions and who's the overall number 1 and that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of time left for them to get right. You're looking at ACC, SEC play this weekend. A lot of good matchups. I was looking forward to the Duke-Carolina matchup this weekend just because how good Duke has been as of late. Really come on last year, about midway through last year. I think that's when people started really paying attention to Duke, what Duke was doing. And then this year had a couple of hiccups, but other than that, I mean, you look at their first game of the season, a loss to Oklahoma 3-0, and then just absolutely goes on a tear. They go undefeated all the way to that second game with Florida State in the middle of March. And they drop one to Louisville, a 2-1 loss. That's just kind of like a blip on the radar. But since then, I mean, got a huge series sweep over Virginia Tech back towards the end of March. Just got a big series sweep over North Carolina. They got a big matchup coming up April 12th, 13th, and 14th at Clemson. I'd see them winning at least 2 of those games, maybe even a sweep. And then it gets a little bit easier for Duke. Maybe they can, if they got some nagging injuries, if they got some pitchers they want to get rolling, that kind of stuff. I mean, after the Clemson series, you've got a doubleheader on Wednesday against UNCG. They are at home against Virginia. They stay at home. They got Longwood and North Carolina Central. They go on the road to NC State to finish the season. NC State right there in the middle of things in the ACC sort of, trying to figure it out this year, brand new coach, that kind of stuff. So I think Duke, after this series that they have coming up with Clemson, I think they're going to start to get healthy with injuries. They'll start to sort of right the ship, get their rotation right for the ACC tournament. So I really look for Duke to be there towards the end of the season. What's Clemson going to do? Clemson's kind of one of those wishy-washy teams this year. Already with 11 losses on the season, 11-4 in the ACC. Kind of going back and forth. I mean, you lose 2 sort of back-to-back here. You got South Carolina they lost to, then they turned around and got beat by Virginia. Ended up losing that series overall back there towards the tail end of March to Virginia. I don't think anybody really expected that. Did take a loss to Boston College as well. Just took a loss to Furman. They got the series sweep over Syracuse this past weekend. Tuesday, they got to go to South Carolina, and then they have that big matchup with Duke coming up. Clemson doesn't have as easy of a road towards the end of the season because they do play Notre Dame and they do play Louisville. Both teams are strong. Both teams are solid. I don't think you can give the nod to Clemson over any of the 3 teams they have in their last 3 series of the year. Clemson could be one of those teams that are sort of limping in towards the postseason. You got a team like North Carolina, who is 6-9 in the conference. They finished the season off with a series against Florida State. Florida State, they're moving there towards the end of the season. You look at Florida State, they're 28-10 overall, but they're 9-3 in the ACC. They have a couple of big series left as well. You got a big series against Notre Dame. Is Notre Dame down this year? Absolutely. I'm not going to lie to you. Absolutely. But they've got 2 matchups the rest of the season here with Florida. They sort of have a home and away series with Florida. But they got their second to last series against North Carolina, and then they finish on the road at Syracuse. Florida State's got a lot to prove. They started off the year really solid and then have kind of faltered there towards the end. Is it the pitching? Is it their defense? Where are they going to get right at? And then as we jump over into the SEC, we'll start with Florida. You look at how Florida's going to end the season. A big-time matchup coming up here against Missouri. After that, you got South Carolina, you got Georgia, and then they finish the season with Texas A&M. So look for Florida to maybe only drop a game or two against some solid teams. I'm a big fan of what South Carolina has been able to sort of bounce back from last year. How are they going to, react to making as far as they did and not having that caliber of pitcher in the circle, but they're 28-12 on the season so far. You look at the series that they've lost. They lost a series to Mississippi State. They got swept by Tennessee, but Tennessee's no slouch. I mean, Tennessee is legitimate. They did get swept by Texas A&M, but you look at how they're going to finish their season off here. Arkansas, they got Florida, they got Kentucky, they got Missouri. So they play some solid teams, but they can also beat these solid teams and set themselves up for the postseason moving forward. Speaking of Missouri, Missouri is one of those teams that goes back and forth. They're 30-10 right now, but they're 5-7 in the SEC. You look at their losses as of late. They get a series loss against Arkansas. Arkansas is playing phenomenal ball right now. They did get one dub against LSU. LSU's playing phenomenal ball. They got swept by Tennessee. So how good is Tennessee? For me, Tennessee's one of the top 5 teams in the country. They've been there all year long. Now, I know you're going to say, well, who have they played? They didn't play anybody early on. And you're right. They didn't play anybody early on. They did, they got beat by a Texas team. They got beat by a Stanford team. And everybody else that they were playing didn't really have that record. I mean, they get some wins over Ohio State. They get some wins over Missouri. But at that time, Missouri was beating people. Missouri was towards the top of the SEC. They were surprising some people. They go in, they get a home series against Missouri, able to get the dub. So for me, looking at Tennessee moving forward, they've got some stuff. They got some meat left on the bone towards the end of the season. They got to go at Mississippi State this coming weekend, following that up with LSU. They got to go at Alabama, and then they finish with 4 against Kentucky. Now, I know Kentucky's down. I know Kentucky's at the bottom of the league right now, but Kentucky's no easy out. Definitely not an easy out. They're 24-14 on the year, 3-9 in the SEC conference, but they're solid. They got good pitching. They're not going to wow you with their offense, but if you make errors, they're going to make you pay. They're one of those teams that really jumps on the opportunities. They create opportunities for themselves. So as we get, towards this postseason, we look at things. Is this something that we should be used to seeing with Oklahoma State, Texas, Stanford, LSU, Tennessee? Are they right there with an Oklahoma team? Are all those teams kind of, waiting for that? I think last year when we were looking at it, when they got into that series or got into the games against Clemson, it was like, does Clemson have enough? Well, now it's like, we know Texas has got enough. They would have shut them down, right? You keep an Oklahoma offense to scoring 1 run in back-to-back games. I mean, that's huge. I mean, you look at Pickering, Coleman, Brito, Boone. You look at just the offensive caliber that Oklahoma has, and you keep them to 1 run. You keep the ball in the yard for the most part. Shoot. Who else can do that? I mean, I don't think anyone is going to say Texas has got the best pitching staff in the country, right? I mean, there are teams look at Tennessee. Look at that pitching staff. Tennessee's pitching staff has the best ERA in the country. You look at Oklahoma State, Lexi Kilfoyle, what she's doing. Look at Florida, Alabama, Duke. Carolina's got a good one. Clemson, you got Millie Thompson and Valerie Cagle. Can they get hot at the right time? What is up with Clemson, by the way? Well, I mean, they've got some nagging injuries and stuff like that, but I don't think anybody else is coming into, the latter part of the season fully healthy. So, and quietly on the West Coast, you got UCLA, you got Oregon, you got Washington, Stanford for sure, right? Is there a better pitcher in the country than Kennedy? I don't know. I don't think you can say anybody's better than Kelly Maxwell. I don't think you can say anybody's better than Kilfoyle. I don't think you can say anybody's better than Keegan Rothrock. So you've got probably 6 or 7 pitchers that anybody could say that's the top pitcher in the country. And then you look at the 2 that's at Tennessee. At the end of the day, you got teams that people don't even pay attention. Don't even are like, oh, I didn't even know they were good this year, or wow, where did they come from? Man, they've been here all year. You look at like what Tennessee does with their pitching staff. You got Peyton Gottschall's probably my favorite player that plays at Tennessee for whatever reason. I love watching her play, right? But SEC has been known for pitching the past few years, and then look at Tennessee's ERA as a team is sub 2. I think overall, they're like 1.33 maybe, something like that, to where they just don't give up earned runs, man. They just don't. You got Pickering and you got Gottschall, or Pickens. I'm sorry. You got Pickens and you got Gottschall. Carlin Pickens, I don't think she still might be sub 1 on her ERA right now. What her stats? Let me check her stats real quick for you. She's not giving up very many earned runs. Earned runs all year long. She's given up 13 total earned runs all year long, which is incredible. 13 earned runs for her. So, you got to play defense against Tennessee because you're not going to get much offense against Tennessee. I think the most runs they've given up this year it's not a lot. You look at just their last 10 games for Tennessee. They just don't. They give up 4. A bunch of shutouts. They did give up 6 against UCLA. Early in the season, they gave up 11 to Cal State Fullerton. But they've got a lot of single digits. They don't give up a lot. A lot of shutouts this year for them. They probably have double-digit shutouts this year, which is crazy. But kudos to Tennessee. If it was my top 5 that I would go with, I think I'd go Duke 1, Stanford 2, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas. I think that's where I would be at. But you can mix and match. Those top 5 teams right there, you can probably even go to a top 7, be honest with you. LSU's right there. I don't talk enough about LSU. That's one of my kids' favorite teams is LSU. But anyway, we're going to leave it with that. Hope you guys enjoy your week. Today is Eclipse Day. Hope you guys enjoy your week. If you would, please make sure you share this with somebody and check out the sponsors. Check out cpatriotcl.com. There's also Nexus Mount. I know you guys are out there streaming your kiddos' games. Maybe they're pitching lessons, hitting lessons, or whatever. Check them out, thenexusmount.com. And when you share this one with a friend, be sure you tell them you love them.